with Jackson Arnold into Ashton Daniels. The one thing I will say is that Jackson Arnold did have his chances also at Oklahoma, and also did not succeed there. But I do feel like the now more streamlined offense that Auburn has put together with Ashton Daniels, now you have a true sense, because without the chaos, because if you would have thrown a true freshman in there with all that chaos, I think that his numbers would have been like terrible.
Yeah, there's no sugarcoating it. They would have been awful. But I think Arnold, I don't think it really mattered. I don't think he would have had
going
any.
To get
he was going to get the hook.
Yeah.
No matter what. I think you can't just rely it on this year, because last year as well. Now, if you send him out in a couple of special packages against Alabama to try to win the game there, because he does have a win over Alabama under his belt, then I would understand it. But I mean, I know he's going to see the field against Mercer here this weekend. DJ Durkin did say that, but I would probably say very briefly, and the only way he gets significant playing time is if Deuce Knight just doesn't look ready at all.
That's the thing, and I think that because we've now been 12, 13 weeks into the season, and then you had fall camp before that, Deuce Knight was early enrollee, so you had the summer and the spring before that as well. He's been on campus for a really long time. I know that he probably took a lot of the second-team reps, third-team reps. Once the season started, he might have been the scout team guy getting the defense ready for the opposite quarterback. And so I know now that he's got the game plan, they're going to tailor it to him. DJ Durkin has said that. They said, hey, we're going to play to their skill sets, so to speak, with this team. And so I would find it interesting if they do go into the red zone, if they go to Jackson Arnold, because he's money down there. Like literally, as soon as you get into the red zone, he can run the football. There was at one point he was the leading rusher for Auburn, and he can make it happen inside the red zone. Or do you go to Deuce Knight, who's also a dual threat guy who can run the ball himself?
Yeah, I mean, that is the question. And obviously for Arnold, as you said, he's money inside the red zone. The problem was getting to the red zone.
Exactly.
Because you just could not push the ball down the field outside of maybe the Baylor game. You could make the argument there, but we've seen how Baylor has panned out this year. But, I think Deuce Knight is a very interesting he's got a very interesting skill set.
Yeah.
He is left-handed.
Right.
And I almost see him as, oh, man, I'm trying to make a good comparison here.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he is a guy that could turn around the position for Auburn. I mean, you look at the last two quarterbacks to start the years, and that's almost as bad as saying Brian Harson's name.
Exactly.
Like, it's been bad, and they need some stability.
Right.
And I think if he can find something, we've seen one freshman 5-star, even though he was a 5-star plus, and Bryce Underwood sort of have success here. But I think if he can just get his feet under him, the game's going to be pretty fast. I don't expect him to have a great first quarter, but I think by the time the second quarter rolls around or even halftime, I think he'll start to settle in, and that's when Auburn will probably pull away.
That's exactly right. And I'm right there with you. And I was looking to find out what his NIL deal is, because I know it's going to be exponential. And I haven't seen anything concrete that wasn't behind a paywall. So it is interesting with him, because I think that you can't really put the cart before the horse.
Right.
He has to go out there and perform. And he did it in high school. He did it at George County High School, which is just down the road from us here in our studio over in Lucedale, Mississippi. But I think you have to be able to get on the same page as your wide receivers. If he and Cam Coleman and he and Eric Singleton Jr. can get on a nice rapport, get a nice bead between those two, I think the passing game will be in good shape. Then I think that opens things up in the running game as well, which I know that's what Derek Nix wants. I know that's what DJ Durkin wants. And to be able to keep the chains moving, that way the defense is not always on the field all the time. I did a quick AI search about Deuce Knight comparisons, and the two names that spit out, somewhat interesting. Don't necessarily look at what they've done where they are right now, but just from a stature standpoint, Michael Penix Jr. and Anthony Richardson. Both kind of bigger guys. I believe Anthony Richardson is left-handed as well.
Yeah.
And Penix is too.
You know who, and this guy's local to our area, so like it's not like it's totally out of left field.
Right.
You can see a Pat White.
Pat White, yes, Pat
White.
Right, yeah, a guy that can run it, but also, I mean, he's.
You want to talk about golden days of West Virginia football as Pat White, Steve Slayton, like those days.
Oh yeah, and Pat White, he's such a prototypical college quarterback. That's what you want, a guy that's really productive, but then that can also run that scheme. And I think there was a perfect marriage between Pat White and what they were trying to do in Rich Rod's offense.
Yeah,
and I think they're trying to find the same synergy with Auburn, and it's just
Right.
taken a while because Hugh Freeze has his guys that he likes, but he struck out on Peyton Thorne, struck out again on Jackson Arnold. Now, I don't know if Auburn runs the table, if they beat Mercer and they beat Alabama, I don't know if DJ Durkin has a real chance of being able to become the next head coach for the Auburn Tigers. I'm not sure, but let's just say let's live in a hypothetical world where he is the next head coach at Auburn. I think this game will go a long way into determining who he believes is Auburn's next quarterback. And maybe you keep Ashton Daniels, or maybe you let him, take that extra year and go somewhere else. I feel like this game will really tell us a lot about not only Deuce Knight, but what they do with Ashton Daniels moving forward.
Yeah, and I think Deuce, he's definitely earned this.
Yes.
And it's smart for Ashton to, be able to redshirt. And we saw in LSU, Michael Van Buren opted to not redshirt, and so that's burned for him. But it's good on Ashton Daniels to, be like, okay, yeah, I think it's best for me to just be able to preserve this redshirt, and then you give the guy right behind you a chance in Deuce Knight. But, it poses the interesting question because I know I talked about the slow start, and that's probably to be expected. But what if Deuce Knight just comes out and just lights everything on fire?
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think if you're an Auburn fan, that's what you want, because then you're thinking, oh, man, we have this guy for the next 4 years.
And then do you roll him out the week after?
Against Alabama.
Yeah.
That one is an interesting one. I think Ashton Daniels has done enough so far to be able to at least start the Alabama game, and because it shouldn't be that you lose your job because you were saving your redshirt year.
Right.
I think you would be doing a disservice by him, because the reason why you are saving his redshirt is so he can, number one, be available for the Iron Bowl.
Exactly.
So because you're deeming that game as more important.
But I mean, there comes a certain point where it's like, okay, yeah, I'd be doing a disservice to my players, but I'm also trying to win the job here.
Oh yeah.
So like,
it's a tough conundrum.
It is. It's
a tough conundrum. And even if you go into it saying, even if you give it lip service and just say, hey, look, both these guys will battle it out or whatever. I think that Auburn is better served just starting Ashton Daniels, and let's say Deuce lights it up, and let's say Deuce. Let's throw a wild number out there. Let's say Deuce throws for 350 and 3 touchdowns.
Yes.
450 and 3 touchdowns, or 400 and 3 touchdowns. I mean, completely tears it up.
Yeah.
And they beat them badly. The default answer will always be, but it was Mercer. You know
right.
what I mean? So
yeah.
it would be one of those things where, like, we've seen Ashton Daniels do it against a SEC caliber defense, and Deuce, while he looks good, this would be Alabama. But I will say Deuce could earn himself playing time in the Iron Bowl.
Yeah, and that's when I think you could make if he plays well against Alabama, then you could be like, okay, this guy's the real deal, and then he's going to make like $5 million next year.
Exactly, that's exactly right. Big time stuff there. We got a chance to hear from Auburn head coach, or interim head coach, I should say, DJ Durkin.
Both those guys have played really well. They're both going to play in the game, like I said earlier. We're going to go with Deuce as the starter, and I think he's earned it, done a great job. We're excited to see him go play. Yeah, we're not going to get specific about that. They're both going to play in the game, and they're both going to play well. They're both prepared. We got a good plan for both of them. They're going to play well. It's similar. I mean, there's things they lean in more, each one of them. We want to play to their strengths always. That's our task as coaches, to put our players in the best position possible to have success. And so, there's little differences and things they like better. That's constant communication between player and coach, and that'll continue from now till kickoff to make sure we're doing the right things.
And it's a 1 o'clock kickoff at Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn. Coming up next, we head over to Nashville, talk to Vanderbilt Commodores and Diego Pavia with our friend Julian Minenzone. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, getting ready for another big week in college football. Some weeks bigger than others. Of course, we have rivalry week coming up next week. However, some big games for teams that are teetering at the edge of the college football playoff discussion. One of those is Vanderbilt. One of our favorite friends joins the show, Julian Menenson out of Nashville. First of all, Julian, let's just talk big picture here with this Vanderbilt football team. They continue to trudge along here. They got a game against Kentucky. It's a very dangerous team. They beat Auburn, obviously. A really impressive win also over Florida as well. What do you make of this Vanderbilt team as they go up against the Wildcats?
I'm not going to lie, guys. I'm a little nervous for this one. Just from the simple standpoint is like you mentioned, Kentucky comes in hot right now. They seem to have at least found some sort of rhythm, especially with Cutter Boley there under center. And when it comes to Vanderbilt, they haven't exactly set the world on fire the last couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one thing that makes me nervous is defensively, they've given up 72 points in the last 2 games. And that was one of them was against an Auburn team that I didn't even know Auburn had 38 points in them. You know what I mean? So that was something that Clark Lee addressed prior to the bye week, that the defense needs to get fixed. And from a standpoint of Diego Pavia had a great game against Auburn, but hasn't really needed to play like a superhero this season. That was the MO at the start of the year. So last year he had to play like a superhero in every single game and pretty much will their team to victory. And you would see the talent on this roster and say he didn't have to do that a lot this year, but lately he has. And so the fact that it is also senior day and emotions are running high and you're coming off a bye and then maybe looking ahead to that Tennessee game, as you mentioned, the rivalry game next week, a lot of factors just make me a little bit nervous. Now, I think Vanderbilt is the better team. Do I think they win? Yes, but I think if it's close, that could be a little bit dangerous.
Absolutely. And I think if Kentucky were to have lost those games, it would be a little different. It would feel very, very trappy. But I think the fact that they won those games, maybe Clark Lee can, cut on that film and say, hey, these guys are a really dangerous football team. Of course, Diego Pavia, the starting quarterback, gets a lot of comparisons to Johnny Manziel. And Manziel came to one of the games. One of the things that Manziel did, he was able to parlay the hype with the play on the field and then ended up winning college football's ultimate prize, the Heisman Trophy. What's the path? What's the avenue for Diego Pavia to do that same thing in that same jersey number?
Well, he's got to absolutely win out the rest of the way, and not just win out, but style points do matter when it comes to that. I mean, we just saw Francisco Mendoza with Indiana. They didn't play exactly their best game, but he had that game-winning drive at the end a couple weeks ago, and obviously the throw in the back of the end zone with the toe tap and all that, and people are remembering those moments, even if the team didn't play their best. So we have Diego here, against Auburn. Yes, it was a close game, but he had amazing numbers, over 300 passing yards, over 110 rushing yards. So it's going to take them to win out and him to look good while doing it. I do think there is a path for Diego to ultimately get to one of those 4 finalists for the Heisman in New York, but he is going to have to put up massive numbers, be really efficient, over 70% completion rate, which is what he's at this year, throw a couple touchdowns, maybe rush a couple, and then maybe have some quotes that get picked up by the local blogs and on social media that go viral.
Go on Bussin' with the Boys again.
Yeah, go on Bussin' with the Boys, or maybe, have a couple celebrities in the crowd who, on Saturday who are, get viral on social media or stuff like that. So there is a path, but the stars have to align as such.
Yeah, maybe he needs to invite Tate McRae out to Nashville for that to happen. But
that would be something.
Yeah, it would. Let's talk a little bit bigger picture here, because I know Clark Lee doesn't want to overlook this game, but something that stood out to me last week was the College Football Playoff Committee had Vanderbilt at 14, and then again this week, not moving at all, obviously, with it being an open week. That give you a little bit more hope that Vanderbilt, if they win these next 2 games, can sneak their way in?
Yeah, it does. I mean, they are going to need to be impressive. Before I thought maybe they were going to have to just win out and the resume should take care of itself. But the problem is, and we talked about it weeks ago, at the beginning of the season, I should say, that Vanderbilt's schedule it was tough going in, but you look at it now, and because of the teams that lost and football plays itself out, it's not as impressive as maybe it was at the start of the year when you look at the wins that they've had. I mean, South Carolina was number 11 when they beat them. They're nowhere near that team. Same thing with LSU. It was a top 10 win at the time, and now it doesn't look as sexy on the resume. And so they are not going to just have to win out the rest of the way. They're going to have to look impressive. I do think they also need teams like Tennessee, for example, this weekend to get a big win. They can't afford to have Tennessee lower than they are right now when they ultimately play each other. They're going to have Missouri beat Oklahoma, not just for the simple standpoint of knocking Oklahoma, giving them that third loss, but Missouri looking that much more impressive, because then it'll make Vanderbilt's win over them that much more impressive. So they're going to need some help, but I do think there is a path, considering the rest of the schedule compared to maybe some of the other teams isn't as rigorous.
Well, and I think it helps that Tennessee's 3 losses have come to 3 teams that sit inside the college football playoff right now. So I think if you were to beat that Volunteers team, you could make a case there. I'm going to make a hypothetical here, because we love doing those. Say I know Vanderbilt lost against Texas. They made that game close in the 4th quarter. If Texas were to go on and beat Texas A&M to end the year, there's a lot of speculation that Texas will probably be out now just because of that big loss to Georgia. Do you think that helps their case and their resume for that being a quality close loss?
I think it does. I think you would love to have Texas win out the rest of the way, and especially get a top 5 win, at the end of the season, because then, unless you're really deep dive watching these games and remembering week after week, you're just going to see that it was a 3-point loss. You're not going to notice that, oh my gosh, Texas was up pretty much that entire game and took their foot off the gas at the end. Consequentially, the Alabama loss, though, I think that was a much better loss, because there was only maybe 2 plays here or there that decided that game. That one doesn't look as close as it may seem from a aerial view, a 16-point loss. But I do think, having those teams that they've already lost to, or they are jockeying with position, win out the rest of the way, unless you're other than maybe in Oklahoma. I do think that certainly helps Vanderbilt's resume when you're stacking it against some of these other borderline at-large teams going into the postseason.
For sure. Staying healthy, of course, is the name of the game this time of year, keeping everybody as healthy as possible as you get ready to play yet another set of games. We got a chance to hear from Clark Lee on practice and how they are handling it with the injuries.
Depth helps that, so the more people that we play, I just don't want to lose that part of it too. Not practice intensity, that hasn't changed. Practice length, we've just been more efficient. So we look at player load as a way for us to, you only have 2 hamstrings, as it turns out, and so when you blow one of those out, and if you blow it out in the summer, it's going to be in the entire year you're going to be chasing it down. So we've just taken measures to pay attention to high-speed yardage and move drills around in a way that protect those soft tissue issues in the lower body that can be so troubling. So a lot of attention put to that, and we've kind of found the right mix, but not sacrificing the physical parts of practice, the intense parts of practice.
And one of the big things about Coach is he's always been able to stay on message, whether it's about what he was just talking about with the injuries and practice and being able to limit practice and making a clear line of demarcation of, hey, we're not stopping the physicality, we're just, maybe stopping it at an hour and a half instead of going 2.5 hours or whatever the case is. But speaking of coaches staying on message, this is a really interesting dynamic with Coach Clark Lee, because he is coaching at a place where he legitimately loves and has ties to. But of course, anytime any coach has success, he is going to be tied to other jobs. How do you see him handling that balance and the way that that comes across to his team as well? Because you're kind of having to play 2 games, or 3 games really, for counting recruiting your current team, and the way to handle the outside noise.
Yeah, the one thing with Clark, when his name gets mentioned in a lot of these jobs, it's so different from somebody else, because like you mentioned, he's from Vanderbilt. He's a hometown kid here in Nashville. He knows what it's like to win there and how special it is. So when it comes to convincing your players that stability is going to be a thing moving forward, he could lean on that.
Yeah.
It's much different than another coach who is being named in a coaching cycle, and you take your pick on the amount of coaches in the coaching cycle this year who that's just words at that point. And Clark Lee, I don't have any insight or behind the scenes knowledge as to what his decision is going to be, but I do think that if I had to bet on it, that he would be in a Vanderbilt sideline for years to come, just because this is his dream job. He wants to turn Vanderbilt into a top-tier SEC program. He doesn't want it to be one of those things where, hey, I'm here one day and then gone the next just because I've had some success. And so I think the fact that he can lean on that not only to the current players the rest of the way so they don't get distracted with the task at hand, but he can lean on that when it comes to recruiting as well and trying to sell guys on the program who maybe wouldn't otherwise be sold on Vanderbilt because they didn't know that what they were getting before, and now you do.
Julian, maybe you should tell that to Lane Kiffin as well. Maybe you should try to. He keeps on saying, "Come to the SIP." He just posted about it this morning. So I mean, the trolling is just at an all-time level there with Lane. But speaking of this Kentucky team, it definitely is a little bit more interesting now, seeing where the team has gone since the Auburn game. Obviously, that was the start of their 3-game win streak. Had that insane win over Florida where they just blew them out, looked like the better team, and then last week beat a good Tennessee Tech team. Now, the thing that sticks out to me is that bullet on the bottom, they need one more win for bowl eligibility. What do you are you concerned? I know you're a little bit concerned about the upset, but what happens if Vanderbilt goes down early? Do you think that the mindset is going to shift there on that Commodore sideline?
They have gone down early, particularly against Auburn, and then they were able to play with some desperation because Diego was just going to be Diego. However, I will say that though Vanderbilt, I think, is going to come in pretty desperate because they're going to have to win out to keep their playoff hopes alive. Similarly, with that last bullet point on that full screen that you had, with Kentucky going to be desperate to get that one win to get bowl eligible. They still have, obviously, Louisville after this, but I think it's one of those things where you didn't expect it, and then you rattle off 3 wins in a row, and all of a sudden, well, maybe we can believe we can get a postseason opportunity here.
Yeah.
And to put a cherry on top, upset Vanderbilt and an SEC rival and knock them out of postseason contention. All I'm saying is, if you're Vanderbilt, you need a fast start, because that's what almost doomed them against Auburn and doomed them against Texas. They got out of playing Vanderbilt football, which is running the ball, time of possession, shortening the game. And if Kentucky, if you allow a team like that to hang around a little bit, you don't want to play with fire when it comes to the fourth quarter ultimately.
Absolutely. The other team there in Nashville, of course, the Tennessee Titans. Of course, I will say, though, and we've talked about this a lot when it comes to college basketball, the fact that there are these really tight games in these really close matchups, and maybe you should have won. Last week was a perfect example of a really close game there against the Houston Texans. And I know this is a really tough division because the Texans are dangerous, especially defensively. Of course, you have Indianapolis in there as well. A couple of these close games, I know there's no such thing as moral victories, but does that give a team a sense of hope that, hey, we get the right pieces in place, we can make a nice run here to end the year?
Yeah, it just shows how razor thin of a margin there is in the NFL, right? I mean, 1 or 2 plays here or there, and it's not just this past weekend against Houston. It's throughout the season. The Chargers, the week just before the bye week, they only lost by 1 score there. You think about the Denver game to open the season. The Rams, they kept it close for a good amount of that game, and so you think about 1 or 2 pieces here or there, 1 or 2 plays throughout the course of an NFL game certainly makes the difference. Now, multiple times this year after losses, the guys on the Titans locker room have said, hey, we are better than that team on that Sunday. It just came down to those game-changing plays. And so that's given the team, I think, a little bit of hope and optimism to make them oddly optimistic in a locker room that's 1-9 this season. I tell you what, it makes that head coaching hire, whoever they decide to bring in, that much more important, not just for Cam Ward's development, but the development in trying to build a winning culture here in Nashville, something that they've been missing for the last couple seasons now.
I think Tennessee's at a bit of an interesting crossroads here because you do sit at 1-9. If you were to lose out, you would for sure get the #1 overall pick again. If that were to happen, which I mean it's not out of the realm of possibility by any means, would you see Tennessee probably trading that pick and getting a couple in return?
Yeah, and that's what I think they're going to be doing because they know, number one, how desperate other teams would be for a quarterback. To draft a Francisco Mendoza or a Ty Simpson or something. And quite frankly, their general manager, Mike Borgonzi, has talked about the best form of currency in the NFL is draft capital, right? And the Titans at this point, like, forget needs, because they have needs all over the field. I mean, they just need good players, guys. And so the fact that you can get multiple picks and just stock up on draft picks, which they've already done a little bit through the trade deadline as well. You just need to get as many good players as possible. And whether you fall in that, you trade back and get a fourth, the 4th or 5th overall pick and then a later first round or an early second round, just take the best available guy because you just need more talent and ready now players on the field. And that's what you tend to find, especially in those first, second, and third rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that they'll use those picks to try to get some help for Cam Ward. Of course, the #1 overall pick. He also owns my favorite quote of the year. Here's Cam Ward keeping it a buck.
I understand. I'm frustrated with him. That's my teammate, so I'm going to support him the same way he supported me throughout this whole journey. He's speaking nothing but the truth. That's something that, myself as an offense, as the quarterback, we don't want 3 and outs. That's something that we should never settle for. And the biggest thing, we shouldn't settle for punting the ball. We have to end every drive with a kick, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, and that's got to be the mindset every day. We have that mindset every day, but we got to, emphasize it and be about it on every play. It'll never feel like a 1-9 team to me. We're way better than our record, but our record is what it is because we're inconsistent at times. And that's just something that we got to own. We just got to continue to play the next play. We got a great opportunity next week. We got to try to get our second win.
And I think at the beginning of the season, it's really easy. It's really easy for any quarterback rookie quarterback to really struggle. But it feels like when he talks about things like 3rd and 9 or 3 and outs and not being able to move the chains, he talks about the record and having the accountability. From a podium perspective, from a leadership perspective, these are at least things you want to hear from your QB1, right? I feel like you have at least a decent foundation if you're a Titans fan.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, that's stuff that you can't teach, right? The football stuff, I think, is going to come from him more because he succeeded in everywhere he's gone, right? But I think the demeanor, the not putting his head down, remaining confident, obviously that quote went crazy when it did happen. And I appreciate the honesty from him. Every single time he steps to the podium, you're going to get some good insight from the guy. And I think that's just a reflection of the kind of player he is and how great he wants to be. I mean, he's been showing up at the facility at 5 a.m. every single day since the guy was drafted. It's hard to do that at 1-9. And so I think the Titans have their right guy. I just think they need, the right coach in place, the right staff around them, and then to get much better players. And then I think you'll slowly start to see that #1 pick talent show itself. You think about other quarterbacks, like, for example, Jackson Dart, before he, went down with the concussion, was playing really well. Would he be playing that well on this Tennessee Titans team? He'd probably look a lot like Cam Ward has numbers-wise. So I think that he's the right guy. I think he's the perfect guy. And I've had multiple former Titans tell me that he reminds him a little bit of Aaron McNair, and I would say that's a pretty good comparison. I don't want to say he's going to be, because I know, Steve Aaron McNair is obviously beloved here in Nashville, but there is just kind of the style of play, the demeanor, and how he carries himself, the professionalism which he carries himself, and I think the Titans will take that 7 days a week.
Julian, one more question before we let you go. There's a long-awaited debut, in my opinion, for one guy on this team that he's reportedly going to make this weekend. That's Xavier Restrepo. #1 target for Cam Ward while he was at Miami. Are you kind of surprised it took him this long to make his debut?
Yes and no. I know, a lot of Titans fans have been clamoring for him because they saw what he did at Miami. Right. Those two did together. I mean, they had the top offense in college football, right? But at this point, you're 1-9. I mean, why not just throw the guy out there and just to see what you have? At the worst case, you throw him out there, he doesn't really make an impact, and you fall to 1-10, and you probably were going to fall to 1-10 anyway. So, chemistry and rapport is a real thing in the NFL. It is something that I just talked to Xavier Restrepo in the locker room about yesterday, and nobody has better rapport and chemistry from a quarterback wide receiver tandem on that team than Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo, because they had a head start in college last year. So, we'll see. Obviously, he's going to have to make an impact on special teams too, and that's how a lot of guys, get their feet wet in the NFL, especially when they're first called up. But, I'd like to see him get a chance, because you got nothing to lose at this point, guys, because every week you're losing. So.
I tell you what, if he comes out and just has like a 200-yard, 3-touchdown game, there's going to be some rumblings in that in that crowd.
We'll never hear the end
of it. You'll never hear the end of it.
Absolutely. And we have seen that dynamic work in all levels of the NFL, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and everybody else. And so we've seen it work from the college to the pros, and of course a lot of NFC teams will be rooting for the Titans this week to knock off the Seattle Seahawks. And Julian, we thank you so much for your time here on Southeast Sports Plus.
Thanks, guys. Anytime. Good to talk to you.
Absolutely. Julian Minnesone joining us from Nashville. Kind of polar opposite teams. The Commodores living in one lane, looking to go to the college football playoff. The Titans looking for answers from a rookie wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I still am shocked. I don't mean to, throw Vanderbilt on the back burner or anything, but I'm still shocked that it took this long for Restrepo to make his debut, because, I mean, you see that rapport in college. Tua and Jayden Waddle.
Yeah, that was another good one. Yeah.
Jamar and Joe Burrow. And it's just like, man, why don't we give this guy a shot? Miami had the #1 offense last year, and Restrepo was Cam Ward's #1 guy. So I don't know if it was a size issue, not thinking that Restrepo would project to the next level, but still, it'd be shocking.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you just roll the dice out.
Roll the dice.
And see what you got there. As of right now, the Tennessee Titans are 13.5-point favorites there in Nissan Stadium in Nashville. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we will head over to Alabama and talk some Crimson Tide next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, looking forward to another great week of college football. Let's talk Alabama now, because it's one of these interesting situations where it felt like 3 weeks ago Alabama was on a nice little course, smooth course to get themselves not only in the college football playoff, but also with the first round bye. Welcome in our good friend Scott Griffin in Birmingham. Scott, we have not talked to you since the Oklahoma game and just the way that game played out. And I think you laid out a lot of great points last week about some of the deficiencies where this Alabama team was, especially offensively. Now that you've watched that game and now you saw the way that transpired after the loss, what do you make of the Crimson Tide as they sit right now?
First of all, should I leave my key fob in the picture?
You know what? I say so. It's like a badge. It's like an FBI badge. You know what I mean?
You can rock that.
You got to have that to get in TV stations. We're top secret around here. So what do I make of where they are now? Is that what?
Yeah, just because we talked about the offensive struggles last week, and I think you highlighted a really good point about how Alabama's a little bit vulnerable, and they kind of showed that.
Yeah, they were because, everybody says they need to run the ball, but they actually ran it pretty well. They just made mistakes offensively. Obviously, you can't do those things and win against a quality team. That the interception return killed them. Simpson's got 2 all year, but that one just absolutely killed him last week. I didn't understand putting Ryan Williams at punt returner for the first time all year. That was kind of a bizarre move. That's like, okay, maybe if we throw him out there, he'll return one for a touchdown kind of thinking. That's kind of weird. But, they just got beat. Oklahoma's good. They won at Tennessee. They won at Alabama. So there's something to the Sooners. That's why they're in the playoff hunt.
Scott, I feel like a couple of weeks ago we were sitting here talking about how Ty Simpson could win the Heisman. Do you think he's out of it at this point?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
He hasn't had that moment, and his numbers really took a downturn the last couple of weeks, and Mendoza had that magical moment, even though it was a great catch against Penn State. It was a good pass too, but everybody blew it up. So, and for some reason, everybody talks about a Heisman moment. I guess there's validity to that, but I don't think Simpson can do anything. That doesn't mean I don't think he'll fly to New York. He still may fly to New York. He probably will be top 3 or 4, but I think Mendoza will win the Heisman.
For sure. When you talk about this Alabama defense, it feels like the emphasis going into this year was creating turnovers. And for the first time all season, they lost that turnover battle. But it seems like Kane Wommack's crew is really still doing a good job defensively. Oklahoma had 212 yards, I believe, in that game, the least amount of yards they've ever had in a win. What do you make of the defense trying to just continue to hold the rope as the offense figures itself out?
Well, I think they played well against Oklahoma. To your point, they doubled them up from yardage on offense to defense. But again, they just had those mistakes turn into scores. So look, they still have that propensity to start slow sometimes. They don't really come out of a gate and put their foot on somebody's throat. So they'll usually give up some yardage or a touchdown or some points early on, but then they seem to settle down, make some adjustments, and get it done. So to your point, I think they're playing very well. I don't know how great Oklahoma's offense is. I don't think it's that explosive, but, they should be able to handle Eastern Illinois, obviously. And, Auburn's got all kind of quarterbacks playing right now, but that'll be at night. That's Jordan Hare. That'll be a different kind of atmosphere. So who knows what could happen. And Auburn's defense is good. So if it turns into a defensive battle, a player or two could decide it,
For sure. You teed up the Iron Bowl perfectly, and I don't want to overlook Eastern Illinois, but I think
games right now, Gerhard. Come on.
I know it's a tune-up game, and I know we'll talk next week about the intensity of the Iron Bowl.
For crying out loud.
Hey, Tony Romo went there.
Hey, Tony Romo went there. Sean Payton, I think, went there as well.
You remember what Stallings used to say? Stallings used to say, if you don't think it's important, just lose it.
Right.
Which is true, but exactly. They've lost 6 in a row. Come on.
Right. Yeah. And
it's a warm-up.
Yeah, I know. But with that Iron Bowl now, 2 weeks away, it seems to me that Alabama could have made that Iron Bowl a 2:30 kickoff, and now it's ho-hum. And after losing that game to Oklahoma, it's now a primetime game, I think, for a lot of reasons. If I'm a TV executive, I vote for the same thing. I want that game at night. Nick Saban has said this place is haunted. How much more pressure do you think that the Iron Bowl game is now on Alabama? And what's Kalen DeBoer's message to his team as they try to do the 1-0 thing every week, but also balance out the fact that this is a really tough place to play?
Well, they kind of screwed up the opportunity to work on Auburn a little bit this week with the loss last week. I don't think he could go in there, and they might have still done a little bit, but I don't think he could afford to do that, although they could just show up and beat Eastern Illinois, obviously. It's an ambush waiting to happen. Auburn is 4-1 in night games in the Iron Bowl.
Wow.
You got that.
Yeah.
Secondly, they can make they've had a bad season. So all they have to play for, all they have, because they're going to win tomorrow and be bowl eligible. So that's off the table. All they got to play for is to disrupt Alabama, which for Auburn is huge.
Right.
Alabama's got all kind of stuff to play for. But, you know, Auburn's got the home field. It's at night. Like you said, it'll be crazy. So, yeah, I think not the nervousness, that's the wrong word, but the edginess or whatever, the pressure is certainly more so on Alabama, because everybody expects Alabama to beat Auburn in the last game, except people that know about the Iron Bowl rivalry, right? So it's going to be a lot tighter than the nation thinks, for sure.
Absolutely, and we'll touch on that a little bit more here, but we've seen a little bit of an interesting dynamic with Alabama's offense. We all knew about Ryan Williams coming in, and we've seen the growth of the other receivers, but it's the tight ends that have been really key to this group, Josh Cuevas and as well as Caleb Edwards. Let's hear from head coach Kalen DeBoer on the impact of those tight ends.
Yeah, I think both, in particular, Cuevas and Caleb do an amazing job. And that tight end position's always been important to our offense. It's not just the pass game, but it's the run game, and the ability and the flexibility these guys have to line up wide, be in the core, move around. It's not just physical, it's mental capacity to do all these things. I mean, Josh is a stud. You see him on the one play, make a guy miss in the flat, toe the sideline, and then, lower the shoulder at the end of the run. It's just the competitiveness he has. And Caleb, just continues to get better. You can see him with pad level for a tall guy, continuing to work at it. He's got great hands. He's been, throughout the year, a guy that you can consistently count on to catch the ball in tough places. And so there's more to it with our tight end core, but those two certainly get the brunt of what we do as far as the reps.
To me, Scott, the use of the tight ends looked almost a little bit like the Patriots when they had Rob Gronkowski and Hunter Henry and a bunch of other guys in that offense. How impactful has that group been, and how much can they really help out in a championship run?
Well, a lot of that has to do with Ty Simpson and his decision-making, right? Any good quarterback that goes to second and third reads, you can always tell a quarterback is going to extended reads if the tight end's catching passes, unless it's Gronk or Kelsey or someone like that, then they're the first option. But on most teams, George Kittle, throw him in there, but on most teams, the tight end's not the first option. So if they're getting passes, your quarterback's really good and working through progressions. So yes, they're making some good catches, but that's really Ty Simpson going through his progressions and, utilizing everybody like a good quarterback does. So I almost lay that compliment at his feet. Not that the tight ends are catching it, but their numbers have definitely gone up probably the last 4 or 5 games 100%. For sure. And it makes them, it's better. They've got 3 receivers, as you talked about, with Horton and Bernard and Williams. So you would think one of those 3 would be open, but it's great to throw to backs and tight ends too, right? So.
Absolutely. Let's flip it to the court right now, because Alabama's really, they have an interesting basketball team right now. They've lost that marquee game to Purdue. Got out-rebounded the game. But the 2 NBA arenas they played in, Madison Square Garden against St. John's and then against Illinois at the United Center in Chicago, they came away with wins. What'd you make of Nate Oates' crew after getting that win over the Illini?
Well, I thought it was incredibly impressive from the standpoint of they played yet another Big Ten team, okay? This one on the road, to your point, at the United Center, crazy crowd, still a big physical rebounding team, and they answered what they did poorly against Purdue.
Yes.
Maybe not with their big guys, because the big guys only got, I think the starting lineup, the front line got 5 rebounds. But they had, I don't know if anybody realized this, 24 of their 38 rebounds came off the bench. Okay. 19 came from 2 guys, Amari Allen and then Bristow, Keelan Bristow. So those guys were high energy, high motor guys. They're not the biggest, but they got after it. They showed that effort is the very key in rebounding. Alabama shot the three. They're always going to probably shoot the three. They even got some rebounding help from other people. But those two energy guys were absolutely fantastic. They were engaged defensively. I just thought they responded really well and showed that, and if you look at the Purdue game, you lose by 7, and they got killed on the boards.
Yes,
I mean, crushed.
Yeah.
Crushed.
With a boulder crush. And still only lost by 7.
Right.
So that tells you they're pretty good too, right?
Yeah.
So I thought it was the perfect answer to what happened.
So, I mean, there's so many guys that you can pinpoint to on this Alabama team and be like, oh, yeah, he's really good. He's really good. But, I mean, I think it's fair to say that this team probably goes as far as LeBaron Philon takes him. I find this interesting. In games that he doesn't score 20 points this year, they're 0-1. When he scores at least 20 points, they've won every game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when he's engaged, they're obviously really good because, he can shoot the three good enough, but he really drives the ball well.
Yeah.
He had some great finishes against the front line of Illinois the other night. And to your point, he was not on task offensively in the Purdue game, maybe because they started him out guarding Braden Smith, the incredible guard for the Boilermakers.
Yeah,
maybe that was a mistake. Maybe they should have put a Reitzel or Millette on him to let the offensive guy, I think Nate would probably say that looking back. But they tried different guys on him.
Right.
It's not like he played him the whole game. But, yeah, Nate said that. We'll go as far as Philon. Part of me says, I don't know if that's true. He is their best player offensively, but they've got so many excellent players, man, that they're really good. I mean, Holloway, fantastic. Millette and Reitzel can fill it up. They're big guards. We see those young energy guys. But certainly Philon is the high-profile NBA prospect guy that, he could play himself close to the lottery if he keeps going like he is.
Yeah, he's
certainly very key, though.
For sure. And it seems like 20 is that magic number every time they score. He scores that much. Bama gets the win. Another big game against Gonzaga coming up next. Scott, thank you so much for your time here on Southeast Sports Plus. We look forward to chatting with you about a very interesting Iron Bowl.
We talking next week, you think?
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk.
You want to? Okay, we'll do that.
Talk a little Iron Bowl next week. Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. Scott Griffin joining us from Birmingham, and it's a good time right now in Tuscaloosa. Both the football team and the basketball team, really interesting parts of their season.
Yeah, man, a couple of big games next week. Just another average week in Tuscaloosa.
Exactly. Coming up next year on Southeast Sports Plus, we wrap up our number 1. Stay with us. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, hour number 1 coming to a close. And when you think this time of year, Patrick, you obviously think Thanksgiving, you think family, but you also think Thanksgiving and you think food. It's the big kind of trio here around this time of year. One of our staple franchises on this program is Top 5. We bring it out. Periodically.
We bring it out periodically, but since it's Thanksgiving next week, I was hungry making this because we are going to do Top 5 Thanksgiving dishes, and here we go. Here, I'll start us off here. Number 1, you gotta have the stuffing. I don't care where you come from. Stuffing is king. It's even more so. It trumps turkey, in my opinion.
Whoa! Wow!
It trumps turkey because it's just so good, and you could just I will say it's a great combination.
Yeah.
You could the next day. Here's another take. The turkey sandwich on Black Friday is better than the turkey on Thursday.
Okay, interesting.
I think it's just better because then you do that, and then you throw some stuffing on there, and you throw some gravy on there. You got a turkey sandwich, throw some mayo too. Money, let me tell you.
Okay, all right.
Turkey at number 2. You know, it's just it's turkey.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just up there. It's like it's Alabama. They're just gonna be there. Number 3, mashed potatoes, because mashed potatoes are great. I'm a huge mashed potatoes guy.
All right.
Number 4, cranberry sauce. This is a little bit controversial, but
I like cranberry sauce. I mean, I like it though as it's the Scottie Pippen. You know what I mean? It's just like the next guy. You know,
it's the next guy.
Yeah, it's the side partner.
The side partner. And then number 5, another controversial one, mac and cheese. I think mac and cheese is pretty good though.
No, mac and cheese is good. Mac and cheese is good, and I'm with you on mac and cheese. I mean, that is a good one. For me, I think that before I get on there, for you, when is the best time to eat? Like as far as like time on the clock?
I'll go Eastern time here because I grew up in the Eastern time zone. Probably right around 6:30 because it's right when a little bit before 6:30 because it's right around when halftime of the Cowboys game.
Okay,
that's the money because you eat, you miss like a little bit of the third quarter, you come back out and you watch the fourth quarter.
Okay, all right,
and they usually lose.
That's interesting because I have 2 different takes here on Thanksgiving, and
you ready for them?
The first one. Hey, hang on one second. I'll tell you. The first one is I don't really eat a ton during Thanksgiving. We eat a little bit earlier in the day. We probably eat about 5. But the thing is, I'm never really truly super hungry at 5 o'clock. So weirdly, I don't eat a lot of food on Thanksgiving Day. I do eat the next day. But you mentioned this turkey sandwich as being better than the turkey on Black Friday. Here's part of my controversial take. We getting that turkey out of here. We don't eat turkey. We don't eat turkey.
Gosh.
It is all about the ham. No turkey. Get turkey out of here on Thanksgiving. It's not just ham. It is no turkey whatsoever. Turkey is a dry meat. You need gravy to make it taste good. Turkey, get it out of here. So yes, people will say, I eat ham for Christmas. You eat ham for both. You eat ham for Thanksgiving and you eat ham for Christmas. Point blank, period. We don't need to pardon turkeys. Turkeys need to run free because they are a gamey animal. It's dry food, and I don't like it at all. Don't like it at all.
Great protein.
Good.
Like, what are we doing?
It's great protein. Ham's got a little bit more fat in it. It's
hey, at least you got mac and cheese up there.
And mac and cheese is number 2. That's the reason why I agree with you 100% on mac and cheese. My number 3 is green bean casserole. I love it, especially when it's really good. Really, a nice crust on top on green bean casserole.
That's money right there.
It's absolutely. Stuffing. I think that the reason why I take the longest naps, the naps that basically go as much stuffing as I eat. If I eat a lot of stuffing, that nap's going to get longer and longer and longer. And then my final one, mashed potatoes. You'll say that's a lot of starch. It is a lot of starch in there, but I will say those are the main ones. My main one. Turkey.
That's just shocking. Next week, we're going to do overrated, underrated with desserts.
I love it. Hour number 2, Southeast Sports Plus, continues after the break.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
Could we get some answers about Lane Kiffin's future, either with Ole Miss or not in Oxford? The report is possibly something pretty soon. Lane Kiffin meeting with Ole Miss brass, that includes the athletic director, about his future with the Rebels. Lane Kiffin went on the Pat McAfee show earlier this week and did his best to try to say that there has been no talk as far as any kind of, hey, you have to decide by X date. And now we will see if Lane Kiffin will stay there in Oxford. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus Hour number 2. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. Patrick, it's been really interesting because as we look at this coaching carousel for the entire, I would say the entire college football landscape outside of Virginia Tech, who already has their guy, I think almost everything hinges upon Lane Kiffin's decision or indecision, because the more he does not decide anything, I think the more these other jobs, including Florida, LSU, and others, stay open. I think the moment he makes a decision is when we start getting dominoes falling.
And I think that's where Jimmy Sexton falls, because it's like he's probably like, hey, you know, Jimmy Sexton isn't just the agent for Lane Kiffin. He's the agent for all these other guys too. And
biggest power broker in all of college sports.
I mean, it just falls all on where Lane Kiffin is going to go. I mean, that's literally the fault point. He needs to find out where Kiffin goes so that way he can the dominoes will fall. And I have no doubt in my mind, no matter what happens, that this is going to be the craziest domino effect of all time when it comes to coaching. Because I mean, you've got Lane Kiffin. He's without a doubt going to be the highest paid college football coach.
No question.
Maybe he, barring something crazy, I don't think Ole Miss is going to win the national championship this year. So if he does stay, I mean, he'll be the highest paid that won't have a national championship under his belt.
Right.
I mean, that's just crazy to think about in general, but still, he needs to come up with a decision soon. I think the ultimatum, while he tries to deny it, I think it was true. I think they did give him an ultimatum, and this meeting today tells me.
Yeah, and I think I think Lane did a good job of being able to kind of stop that discussion on the onset. And if so, you kind of want to applaud him to say, hey, look, even if they did give you an ultimatum, you threw cold water on it, so it stopped becoming a topic for a little while. But I do think in this meeting, if he has it, Lane Kiffin is saying, hey, look, guys.
I had my phone at the ready just in case something came out, and I saw Pete Thamel just posted a tweet. I'm like, no way it came out right now. No, it's about James Franklin's contract.
Oh, okay.
Franklin will get $8 million per year.
$8 million? Okay. That sounds about
that's right where I thought it would be, but
sounds about right.
Back to the Kiffins.
Yeah. No, if Thamel does break something, then definitely yell that out. But no, I do think that with Lane, it's not just about his contract and it's not just about his future. I do think that if Lane Kiffin decides to go, this will be a complete family thing, not just the Kiffin family, but also his coaching family, so to speak. His coordinator, his defensive coordinator, Pete Golding. You have all these guys, and I think that sometimes a lot of this talk becomes like, hey, are you going to pay my assistant coaches? What is the here with NIL? Do we have all of the things that we need? Now, he could be doing that both ways. He could be doing that to stay at Oxford and to have leverage there at Ole Miss, or he could be doing it somewhere else. think that you said that there was either a poll and or some numbers out there, some odds out there that I think that it's 50% that
50%
he stays, and then if he does go 25% to LSU. Right.
And Yahoo Sports reported earlier that Florida is out of the Kiffin sweepstakes.
Yeah.
I think that comes a little bit as a shock to me. I thought I feel like this is a little bit early on. I honestly thought Florida had a better chance than LSU did.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's because Landry's trying to make her case. Because, I mean, we laugh about it, but that's kind of what it came down to between him and Auburn last time around.
That's true.
Landry was like, man, I literally just moved here. I don't want to move again.
Right.
Like that's not something I want. With Weeks being down there, and I don't know what poison she gave him, because, I mean, he's just
hasn't been the same
he's
since.
been dealing with the injury bug ever since. But I could see it.
I thought I read something. I'm going to pull this up. I thought I read something about Landry. She went to apparently went to, I guess it was like an LSU Booster Club meeting. And there was talk, and some people started panicking about that. But apparently, I guess Whitweek was speaking at the meeting. So it was the Bengal Bells luncheon. That's what it is. It's basically like a booster club, I think, for the ladies there. And she was spotted there, and so that of course just fuels the fire that Lane, this is the first thing that Lane's going to do as the head coach. He's already getting close to the booster club and all this kind of stuff. But it turns out that her boyfriend was speaking at this event. Yeah. But I find this whole coaching search very interesting, though, because if you listen to Lane, if you listen to the documentary, all signs point to staying in Oxford, Mississippi, and continuing to build on what he set out to build there. This might be the time where the iron is definitely the hottest for him to be able to strike and go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the documentary, and all signs do point. I know there was some originally, I think last week, everyone thought, hey, I mean, it's likely that Lane's going to stay in Oxford. And then there was some concern earlier this week, like, hey, Lane's leaving. But now I think everyone's starting to get back on the, hey, Lane's going to stay type thing. So I don't know if that's because his mind keeps changing, or if they just can't decipher the trolling enough. I actually kind of find this funny. So he posts those devotionals every day. We've talked about it. And honestly, I love Lane. Love Lane Kiffin, but I'm kind of tired of talking about it here. But it's like we have to, because there's like something new every day.
Right.
The day that it came out that his family went to Baton Rouge, he posted day 252, and that's the area code for Baton Rouge.
I didn't even put that together.
I was like, oh man, now the trolling is getting to the next level. But funny. I think it's definitely. I know Yahoo Sports reported that Florida's probably out, but I still think they're in, especially with the whole saga with John Summerall. Did he actually have a meeting? Did they cancel? Was that even a thing in general?
Yeah, and he already has inroads there in the state of Florida. I mean, he coached at FAU, so he knows a lot of those coaches that are in that area. From a recruiting standpoint, I think he would have a leg up in the state of Florida more so than he would have in the state of Louisiana, even though I think he'll be fine in either situation, being able to get where he wants to go. I do, if I'm, objectively speaking to Lane, or if I am Lane myself, I look at both programs, and LSU seems to be a bigger mess.
Yes. Oh my goodness, we talk about it every time.
Yes, like around the program seems to be a bigger mess. And if you can get to the same heights, like LSU right now, let's just say they were a 2-loss team, they'd be right around 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the country.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Ole Miss is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the country.
Lane
can't do anything differently there.
Lane Kiffin is playing the college football game, and he's rebuilding Ole Miss. When you play the game as like the head coach and like your franchise mode, you don't want to just pick like the best team, and like where's the fun in that?
Right.
I mean, he went to Ole Miss from FAU. Completely changed the course of the program, having the best years since the 60s.
Yes.
I mean, that's just unreal to talk about. And he has a chance to he can be his own Nick Saban.
Yes.
And here's the thing. If they keep on this track, I think this is a little bit of a crazy take, but I'm serious about it. If he keeps going down this track with Ole Miss, and they are serious about increasing the NIL, I mean, we could in 20 years be talking about Lane Kiffin sort of on the same as the Nick Saban of Ole Miss.
Right.
He's not going to be the Nick Saban of LSU because there's already so many good coaches that have coached at LSU.
100%.
He could make a name for himself, and he could be the face. In 20 years from now, you could talk about Ole Miss and be like, hey, Lane Kiffin, #1.
Right.
Right now, it's Eli Manning.
Exactly, yes. And even when Saban got to Alabama, I mean, he was standing on the shoulders of giants. I mean, he already had Bear Bryant. You already had Gene Stallings, who won a national championship there as well. And they were just starving for somebody to get them back. The parallel that I think I would make is one of two people. Don't think of this person now. Think of this person about 5 years ago. But what Dabo Swinney did at Clemson.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Clemson was, they were a good program, always there.
Sorry, maybe Nick Saban was a little bit hard.
Yeah, but I know what you meant. Like he could be the power of that program.
Mike Gundy would have been a better one.
Yeah, Gundy's a good one too.
Yeah.
Gundy's a good one too. The reason why I use Dabo Swinney is that Dabo's his Q rating, so to speak, took off after he won the national championship, and then he combined it with a second one, and I think that elevates him to a different stature where you're now in the Hall of Fame talking everything else. Another person I would mention, and I know he is the GOAT, probably the best of all time in his sport, is Mike Krzyzewski. Because Duke had been nothing in basketball. I mean, relatively respected to a certain degree, but not a powerhouse. Coach K went in there, and instead of taking the Kentucky job when it went open, or the UCLA job when it came open, or the Indiana job when it came open, he stayed at Duke and made it a powerhouse. And Lane can do the same thing at Oxford.
Yeah, and I mean, it could come down to those three schools: Ole Miss, Florida, and LSU. I mean, the good thing for him is he's beaten all those schools this year. And just going back, if it is between LSU and Ole Miss, I mean, that game, it was a pretty good game. We'll talk about it here a little bit, but I think the fact that he has seen what he can do at Ole Miss, and he just has talked so much about how he needed Oxford more than Oxford needed him.
Right.
And I feel like it would just completely ruin that reputation that he tried so hard to change his reputation.
Yeah.
I mean,
worked on it.
He had golf balls thrown at him the first time back in Knoxville.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I don't think Oxford would do that to him, but it's the message. Like, I want to I rebuilt myself here, and I feel like if he just goes and does this, it's not nowhere near the same as Tennessee to USC.
Yes,
but still, it's in the same category at least.
Right. And I do think that he is hungry and he's ambitious, but to me, Ole Miss to LSU, I know it's not as far as prestige. I'm going to use a term that people will balk at, but to me, it's a lateral move in 2025.
Yes.
In 2025, it's a lateral move, if not a little bit of a step down because of the leadership in and around LSU right now. Seems to be under a little bit of turmoil. Now, I understand from a pedigree perspective, you look at the last three head coaches outside of Brian Kelly, all won national championships. So they're from a pedigree perspective, it's not a lateral job. LSU is better. But in 2025, when the ground is seemingly smoothed out as far as NIL goes, it is a lateral job to me.
Look, I think they're in the SEC. There are only 4 schools where if you left, it wouldn't be a lateral job.
Yes.
If you left South Carolina to go take like an LSU job, that's definitely not a lateral.
Right.
You can't say Kentucky is by any means. Arkansas and then Mississippi State.
Right.
All of the other schools, I think, with NIL now, I mean, you're pretty much on a level playing field. I mean, we saw Vanderbilt and what it took for them to keep Diego Pavia.
Yes.
I mean, Pavia was getting tampered with. He was getting offered, according to him, $5 million to go somewhere else in the SEC.
Right, exactly. And he ended up staying at Vanderbilt, and he's turned them into a legend. I think that Lane Kiffin is able to do a lot of the same things there at Ole Miss. But once again, we'll keep our eye on the monitor, so to speak, as far as how that goes, because we could get news at any time. I do believe, and you floated this idea the other day, and I think it's an interesting one.
I've not gotten anything yet.
I do believe if something were to happen, I believe if he were to stay, he wants to make it a grand gesture.
Yes.
And if he stays and makes it a grand gesture, there's no other stage better than right before the Egg Bowl. So let this week go by. Let the weekend go by.
Happy
let
Thanksgiving.
These college football games go by. Happy Thanksgiving. I give thanks for Lane Kiffin. I think that's the way he wants all that to kind of pan out. I won't be a bit surprised if the Wednesday or on Thanksgiving Day we get that news in the early morning, right before the NFL games kick off, Lane Kiffin is staying.
I don't know what crew's on the Egg Bowl, but if Molly McGrath just asked him, hey, you got an update on your future right before the game?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm coaching the Ole Miss Rebels for the foreseeable future. You know, I just signed a 7-year deal. Come to the SIP.
Yeah, 100%.
Like
yes.
Can you imagine? That'd be so fun.
And now
that'd be so on brand.
And now, 100%. Now you're a hero. Either that or wait till after the Egg Bowl.
Yeah.
Get the win and say, we have only won 3 in a row over these guys. We're now about to win 10 in a row because I'm staying, or something like that. I could easily see that happening as Lane Kiffin continues to meet with Ole Miss brass. And we will, of course, give you the latest here on Southeast Sports Plus. Hour number 2 rolls on. We'll talk some brackets next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, we saw the 3rd edition of the College Football Playoff Committee brackets earlier this week. It was on Tuesday where they made the announcement, and we knew there would be some shakeup after Alabama lost in a really close game as well around college football. And there wasn't a ton of change in the first 2, some major change in the next one. But there will be some changes moving forward, and that's where we come in.
Yes.
We'd like to do our projected bracket. So what we're doing is we're not saying it as it sits right now here today. We're saying, hey, let's play out the next few weeks, now seed the bracket, and here we go.
Yeah, and I think I started with the top 5, so we'll roll right in here with your bracket.
All right. Yep. All right, so here it is. I don't believe there's going to be any change at the very top. Okay. Ohio State still owns my number 1 spot. I do believe that they will not lose to Michigan, and they're in. Same thing with Indiana. I do not believe that they'll lose anymore. They're in as well. Number 3, Texas A&M. I think they end the season undefeated. I think the Texas game goes the Aggies' way. They win as well. Same thing with Georgia. They win out too. Now, as far as the at-larges go, I like the Tulane Green Wave to hold that group of 5 spot there as the number 12 seed. I think North Texas, this is my upset. North Texas loses at Rice this week.
Wow.
They are out.
Oh, because all the beer.
They are out. All the beer.
All the beer that's going to go to the students for free.
Yes.
Like, what?
A night game in Houston. I believe North Texas loses and vaults Tulane up to that number 12 spot. So I'm going to do it by the seeding. My number 11 spot is held by the ACC champion. That is Georgia Tech. So my 10 spot is Southern Cal. Here's the reason why. I do believe that Southern Cal will play a lights-out, drag-out, knockdown game with Oregon, enough to where the committee will look at that loss a little bit differently. I do believe that they'll get another team in. Now I'll go back to the 8-9 game. The 8-9 game is Notre Dame and Texas Tech. You're like, okay, well, does Texas Tech slip and fall? I do believe so, because I do believe that Texas Tech will end up not having pretty wins. This will not be based on wins and losses. This will be like the style with which they win and lose those games. So I like Notre Dame hosting Texas Tech. I like Oregon sliding into that number 5 spot after that win over USC. So they'll play Tulane. I like Alabama holding the number 7 spot. They do not lose the Iron Bowl. They get in. And then Ole Miss holding that 6th spot, and they'll take on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Now, the biggest question you'll be asking is, where's Oklahoma? I think Oklahoma ends up losing this week to Missouri. They have 3 losses, and they are done. And then there was another team that was in question here that I wanted to make sure I could explain away.
Let me see here. You got Ole Miss, you got Alabama, you got Oregon, Tulane, Notre Dame. Is it BYU maybe? BYU.
Well, BYU. I believe that the Big 12 literally only gets one team, and I think it's Texas Tech.
I find Southern Cal a little interesting.
Yeah. So to me, the Southern Cal deal is I just believe that this year there will be so much chaos in the back end of the SEC that it'll allow the opportunity for another Big Ten team to slide in. Now, what I could have done is just change up the seeding, because I think maybe if Southern Cal does get in, they might be the 11 seed or maybe even the 12 seed. But I do believe that the Big Ten gets another team in, and the SEC, they still have Georgia, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Bama. But I do believe that the door will be locked for Oklahoma and a 5th team in, and I do believe the door will be locked with Vanderbilt, because I think Tennessee beats Vanderbilt as well. I just think there'll be a little bit too much chaos to get 5 teams in.
What about Missouri do you think is the reasoning that they're going to win? Is it because Bo Pribula is likely to play?
Bo Pribula is likely to play against Missouri. And then also, too, I think that now they have a nice little blend here of that run game / pass game. I believe that this game will kind of play out the same way that Kentucky beat Auburn. Very low scoring game. Oklahoma's offense leaves so much to be desired.
Yes.
I don't really trust Oklahoma's offense at all. So I don't think for Missouri it will take many points. I think 17 points can win this football game. I think maybe 20, 21 points almost guarantees a win in this football game. And given what happened in the Alabama-Oklahoma game where they had 3 turnovers, I think Missouri's their number one thing, don't turn the ball over. I think Ahmad Hardy is about as sure-handed as it gets. I think that they won't put Pribula, or if Pribula does not play, they won't put Zollers in situations to turn the football over. And I just don't trust Oklahoma's offense to run up and down the field. So I think a low-scoring game, Missouri gets the win, throwing a little bit of chaos into Oklahoma's chances. I think Tennessee gets the upset in Neyland Stadium over Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's odds now go by the wayside, and the SEC gets 4 instead of 5.
You know, I think of that Mizzou-Oklahoma game as like the Seahawks-Broncos Super Bowl, where all the talk was about the Seahawks defense versus the Broncos defense.
Right.
And I feel like in this case it's Ahmad Hardy versus that Oklahoma run defense.
Yes.
But no one's really talking about the Oklahoma offense against the Mizzou defense.
Right.
I mean, again, it is questionable. You are right about that. You don't know what you're going to get out of John Mateer. But Mizzou is also – I mean, they held Vanderbilt in check.
Yes, they did.
They held Diego Pavia in check, and that's been hard to do. I mean, you know, we thought that Texas was going to have one of the best defenses this year, and they just haven't.
Right.
And I mean, and last week or 2 weeks ago, Auburn had one of the best defenses, and then Diego Pavia almost had over 500 yards.
Correct. Exactly.
It's just unreal.
With running the ball and throwing the ball. And once again, the last thing I'll do will say with Southern Cal. The one thing I do think with that Southern Cal pick is that I believe that they're in the 12, but that seeding could change. The reason why I have them there is a lot of what I said last week. This committee is going to want intriguing matchups, and they're going to want good games. And you put Alabama and Southern Cal in the same matchup, two historic brands playing in Tuscaloosa. I believe, but that's the reason why I try to slide them in there, because it won't necessarily be the game, the seeding with Southern Cal, because I don't think Southern Cal is a top 10 team. But I do believe that the committee will slide at least one marquee game in that first round.
All right. You ready for mine?
Let's do it.
This is nothing but chaos, but this is I honestly think this.
Yeah.
I honestly think this. Indiana is going to be the top seed by the time this is all said and done.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'll get into the first four in the buys here in a second.
Right.
Let's start with the 8-9 game.
Okay.
It would be criminal to not put Notre Dame, Alabama in the first round. I mean, I talked about it yesterday. Ratings would be absolutely through the roof.
Yeah.
Easily the highest rated first round game in any sport in history. I mean, it's just unreal, the matchup that would be, and it would be great. There's a lot of talk about Notre Dame and if they really should be in the college football playoff. Have 2 losses, not playing in a conference, playing a bunch of cupcakes outside of it. But I mean, they looked impressive last week against Pitt, and they do look like a college football
And you
team.
like that seeding, though? You like Notre Dame 8, Bama 9? I like the matchup, but I might flip those.
Again, I go back to what you were saying about committee favoring losses late in the year.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's just the one thing. It's like Alabama lost late in the year, and that's just the one thing that makes me a little bit nervous.
I get that. I get that logic.
Here's where it starts to get interesting. Georgia is going to be a 5 seed.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Georgia's going to be a 5 seed because they're not going to play in the SEC championship, I don't think.
Okay.
I don't think they play in it.
The SEC championship game is going to be Texas A&M and
Alabama. Yes,
okay.
That's my pick, and then Texas A&M wins, but Alabama doesn't get. Here's where I think it's going to change a little bit because the committee's not going to hurt Alabama too much because of a loss in the championship.
So they'll have 3 losses.
We cannot have that.
No,
we just absolutely cannot have that.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets interesting. Georgia's 5.
Okay.
SMU is 12.
Wow.
So
the ACC champ is going to be 12.
Yes, for the second straight year, the group of 5 will be ranked higher than the ACC championship.
Okay.
Because SMU has 3 losses right now.
Right.
And I look at the ACC. Georgia Tech still has to play Pitt.
Yes.
This week.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a tough game. I think if Georgia Tech wins that game, then SMU needs Virginia to lose as well.
Right.
And I think Virginia has a tough stretch to end the year
as
well.
Yes, Virginia plays Louisville, I think.
I think.
I'll pull the schedule up. I think they still have Louisville and
Louisville and
Tech. Do they play Tech at the end of the year?
No, because Tech plays Georgia.
No, sorry, Virginia.
Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Virginia Tech.
Virginia plays Virginia Tech. That's right. Yeah.
And then SMU sits in number 3 right now. So they really just need one of those teams to lose.
Right.
And then it's them and Georgia Tech in the championship. I like SMU and Kevin Jennings over Haynes King. I'm going to go on the record and say it. I think that's a little bit bold, but I'm here for bold.
Yeah, that is bold. I like that. So okay, of course that means Pitt is gone. So Pitt's only loss would be Pitt's loss. It was a bad loss.
Louisville.
It was a bad loss. Oh, Louisville. That's what.
Pitt's gone. Pitt is abolished, especially after what Goofy said last week. All right, moving right along.
Yeah.
7-10. Oklahoma gets the 7th seed because they have the win over Alabama. Here's where I think Michigan gets in.
Okay.
I think Ryan Day, just like Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart has an Alabama problem. Ryan Day has a Michigan problem. And I think Michigan, Bryce Underwood, in the barn, in the biggest college football stadium in America,
right,
in Ann Arbor, Michigan does it again, and that's enough to get the Wolverines into the college football playoff because it's wins late.
Yeah,
it's wins late, and it's wins over the number 1 team in the country. You cannot refute that. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's true. This actually, man, it makes me think
of early losses. They don't care about that.
They don't
and it was
care.
to
No.
Oklahoma, and it sets up another rematch.
Yes, and I was going to point that out. That's another rematch back in Norman once again. Another interesting scenario there. When you brought up Michigan, the very first thing I thought of was I think what we're doing essentially is we're swapping my Southern Cal with your Michigan.
Yeah.
But I do find something very interesting with the Michigan deal, and I know we're in this weird climate where sometimes, and you talked about the integrity of sports and want to keep sports clean, and we talked about betting and the way that the betting world has really changed a lot of things. I find it interesting to see if the Big Ten just doesn't whisper to Ohio State, "Hey, look, you're still getting your first round bye if you lose this game." You know what I mean? Like, it's just a, hey, we can add another team in. We'll give you money. We'll add another Big Ten team in, which is good for everybody in the conference, and you'll still and they'll still hold. It'll only be a one-loss team. I'm going back and forth on Michigan, Ohio State because the more you talk about it, the more I want to pick Michigan in that game, even though I don't see them being better than
So
Ohio
quick departure here, real quick. Pete Thamel just said the announcement on Lane Kiffin is expected to be after the Egg Bowl.
Okay.
So there's that.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay.
Ole Miss, right on cue.
Yeah.
He's going to play North Texas. I am so high on the Mean Green.
Oh, no. Really?
I think North Texas is making it in. And honestly, by the time this is all said and done, they're going to be ranked higher than SMU because they only have one loss.
That's true, yeah.
I don't care if you get all the dudes in Houston there, all the beer and stuff like that. Like I don't care. It's not happening. So stop. I don't know what the Nick Saban was. I don't know, so quit asking. That's my thing on that. And then here we go. Indiana's the top overall seed because they're going to play Ohio State.
Right.
And they're going to beat Ohio State. Now, I know you said, hey, or actually, here's where it gets tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Ohio State, oh, man, this is where I messed up. Because now, how is Ohio State? I did this 2 weeks in a row.
Ohio State.
I did this 2 weeks. Man, it's so hard to do this.
So you're saying how is Ohio State 3 still?
How is Ohio State still a first round bye with 2 losses?
But the thing is, it'd be with one loss.
Michigan would have to beat Ohio State to get in, and then Indiana would
be the champion. But then would you say, hey, one loss to? I could see this playing out.
Okay, and then maybe you're right, but
I can still see that playing out because you'd have a one-loss Ohio State team because to me you cannot make an argument for anybody that's behind them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe outside of Georgia, but I mean, Georgia's got a pair.
Yeah,
and so like Texas Tech,
it's tough.
I mean, I could see them not wanting to put Indiana 1, Ohio State 4, and have that potential rematch, 2 weeks later. So I could see that. I could see this playing out, especially if everything else does.
All right, Texas A&M's 2, and here's the interesting thing: Texas Tech is 4, and this is why they bumped Georgia out of the first round bye. Is because Texas Tech wins the conference championship, and then Georgia wouldn't play in the conference championship. I think they would value a Big 12 championship over Georgia.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
And who's Texas Tech closed the year with in conference before that championship game?
West Virginia.
That's right. That's right.
In Morgantown.
That's why
couches are going to be burned.
The couches been burning. That's the reason why I dropped them a little bit in my bracket because Texas Tech, that is. I think West Virginia. I think your alma mater. I think they pull it off, and I think that's the reason why they slide to 9.
Yeah.
But even without the chaos, I do think that all of that as well.
I feel like we just got to be taking detours here today because now we talked a few weeks ago about the NCAA allowing athletes to bet on pro sports, and now they rescinded it, saying it's still in place.
Right. Yes.
What the heck is going on?
But I remember we played some sound here on this program of people that were really upset by that.
Narduzzi
was upset by that. Greg Sankey was upset by that as well. And so this actually doesn't surprise me at all because I do think that there are some, given what we just saw with the 5 families and the NBA
and then Temple basketball as well today came out.
Yes.
The head coach was involved.
Right.
It's so bad.
I think it's one of those things that on its surface it's not bad to have college athletes bet on pro sports, just on its surface.
On its surface.
But when you go down a layer deeper and another layer deeper, what you end up having is you could have some insider trading, so to speak. There's just so many pitfalls, potential pitfalls that happen when you let this thing open. And we've already seen adults in the game, and I know college kids are adults, but we've seen real adults who've been in the workforce for a long time screw this thing up.
Yes.
And how can you expect a sophomore not to?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. But real quick, before we get back to Noah, just going back to my bracket one more time. SMU is the ACC champion. I think they make it, even with 3 losses. And Notre Dame, Alabama, that would be a first-round game you really want to watch. Michigan gets in with a win over Ohio State to end the year, setting up a rematch in Norman. And North Texas, the Mean Green, are headed to Oxford. And we'll see what happens with Lane Kiffin after the Egg Bowl.
I love it. I love it. And according to Pete Thamel, he'll quickly sign that. He'll make a decision by the Egg Bowl, and then apparently Patrick says that the joy will stop there, and they'll start for next year. Stay with us here at Southeast Sports Plus. We head over to Austin, Texas next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, we just got done debating our brackets, and it's a kind of a 2-part game. You have to predict the future and then predict the way the playoff committee will get things done. And we are going to ask our next guest to do the exact same thing. Noah Gross joins us from Austin, Texas. Noah, first of all, we'll talk about last game very briefly before we spin it forward with the Longhorns. I had Texas going into the game against the Georgia Bulldogs. We saw the way it played out. Kirby was aggressive. It just felt like that Georgia owned that game from the trenches standpoint, and then obviously on the scoreboard there as well. What'd you make of Texas as they went to Athens and suffered a loss that surprised me? I don't know if it surprised you.
Gerhard, love talking to you every week because, sometimes I get predictions wrong, but it seems like every time I talk to you, you at least own up to your prediction.
Oh, I do. 100%. Because I'm going to stand on the top of Mount Everest and gloat when I go 5-0 on my picks. I got to do it. I got to do it the other way around as well. It's only fair is fair.
That's much appreciated because I also had Texas this last week. To me, a couple big takeaways from the Georgia game. First, Kirby has Sark's number, which is interesting because they're such good friends and they're so similar. But Texas, like Sark talked about before the game, he knew there was going to be some trickery, something Kirby had up his sleeve, and the onside kick was it, and it worked to perfection. And I think it was extremely interesting in that moment when they had the onside kick, because there was a shot of Kirby right before where he's just kind of like, I can't believe we're actually doing this. And then the shot of him right after, like, I can't believe it worked, and celebrating like that. And it just totally spiraled for Texas after that. And to me, that kind of, the way it went for Texas after that onside kick kind of shows me where this team is as far as the last couple of years when Texas was one of the final 4 teams remaining. They made the college football playoff, and it was 4 teams, and they made the semifinals last year in the 12-team format. They were largely unflappable. You know,
right.
It was adversity that it would hit them within games, and a lot of their wins were ugly. Pretty much every national champion, with the exception of like maybe 2019 LSU, has like some ugly wins over the year. Where you're like, I don't know how that happened. Mm-hmm. Texas had a couple of those the last couple of years, but they would never like get, overwhelmed. They were clearly overwhelmed in that game and looked overmatched. And then if you try to spin it forward, it's kind of like, how many games has Texas looked really good this year? They've had a good half in a couple games. They were, they played Ohio State actually very well. Like, looking back, that was not a bad game.
Right.
Their best game was against Oklahoma, I would say, and they had, I think, 3 points at the half. They did nothing offensively, and they turned it on late. Then against Vanderbilt, they totally collapsed defensively in the second half. So I just don't think this team is as good as we all thought they were coming out of that Georgia game.
Absolutely. And now, as we spin it forward, this is a really interesting and dangerous Arkansas team that comes out ahead, that comes up next. It's a team that's just, starving for a win, and they call themselves the champions of almost, and they've almost won just about every game so far. How important is this matchup? Because it is very easy to look ahead at, hey, potentially if we go beat Texas A&M, there's an outside chance we're getting into the playoff, but also trying to take care of business against Arkansas. What do you make of this particular game as it relates to the bigger picture of Texas trying to fulfill their ultimate dream of going back to the college football playoff?
I don't think Texas should get in. I mean, if they beat A&M like 60-0 or something absurd,
right? Maybe
we'll have another discussion. But I remember talking to you guys last week and saying, I think there's little question at the end of the year Texas will be one of the 12 best teams in the country.
Mm-hmm.
No, with the getting to the playoff is a different discussion. But as I kind of look at this full picture for Texas, it's not encouraging to me how they played this season. And I don't see them beating Texas A&M. My score prediction for this week is like 37-34 or something, because the Arkansas defense is not great. But I mean, exactly. But the Arkansas offense compared to against this Texas defense could have a lot of success, especially because the Longhorns might be without Anthony Hill, their star linebacker, who for almost 3 years now, pretty much his entire time in Austin, the defense has run through Anthony Hill. Yeah. He's the leader of that group. They have other leaders back there, like Michael Taft, who's back healthy. But if Anthony Hill is out and you're facing a dual threat guy like Taylon Green, that's a huge, huge loss for Texas. So Arkansas can come in. I think the team is focused on this matchup, and it's not as big a trap game as people think, even though it's sandwiched between Georgia and A&M. But I think that doesn't even matter, despite the fact that Texas is focused on it and everything. It's easily could be a one-possession game. That's what I expect it to be, and a high-scoring affair as they get set to face the Hogs this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a one-possession game, because as the lower third said, Arkansas has lost 6 one-possession games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have to be the best 2-win team in the country right now. There's just no there's no debate. If you were to put Arkansas up against Purdue, I think Arkansas would win by like 40. I don't even care about the SEC hypotheticals coming at me. That I don't care about that. But let's talk about Texas again here for a second, because I know we've been talking about Steve Sarkisian and the whole him trying to shut down all the coaching rumors and everything. But, I mean, let's face it, this season feels like a waste coming in as the number 1 overall team in the preseason. Arch Manning had all the Heisman hype. And you wonder where it went wrong, and we've seen this a couple times with a few coaches here this year. Now, I don't want to go down this path where it's like, oh, he's Billy Napier, oh, he's Hugh Freeze. But, what led to their demise is them not wanting to give up play calling. And, Sark is known for his offense, and Texas has had a bottom half SEC offense this year.
I would be stunned if Sark ever gave that up. He's talked about that before, and he's like, that's the reason I got hired, is because I'm a very good play caller. And I think that is what made Texas so good in the past couple of years, is because Quinn Ewers was safe. He was, I think, better looking back than people gave him credit for, but he was a limited quarterback. And Sark's offense really juiced up what he was able to do, and it's clearly been different this year. And while it has been a waste, you're right, in the sense of like this team has not lived up to the billing, I think they've made unbelievable strides offensively. And Texas did not score much last week against Georgia, but that offense, I think, looked a lot better than the final score indicated. And to see where Arch Manning is now relative to the beginning of the year is incredible. I mean, he was atrocious for the first 5 games of the season. And then now, watching him from a Texas perspective, would have so much confidence in his ability to remain calm, stay in the pocket when there's a hit. And I think that's him and Sark working together. And it's coming from a guy in Quinn Ewers, who that was his 3rd year with Sark last year compared to Arch's first year. He's playing like a freshman. So I think the problem this year is, the offense was bad right away, but they just couldn't stomach it because the defense wasn't as dominant as everybody thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be like a top 5 unit in the country, and it's been good. But the last 3 games, they've allowed 38, 31, and 35 points. That's their 3 highest totals of the season. So when the offense isn't explosive and the defense needs to be unbelievable, and it's been good, but this hasn't been great. And I think that's been a big key for Texas this season, not getting to where they want to go.
Absolutely. Steve Sarkisian knows a lot about Texas, knows a lot about Arkansas and this rivalry. And I think a lot of older Texas fans and older Arkansas fans remember this heated rivalry back in the day. Here is Sark on these 2 matchups.
Well, I don't know if they completely understand it all. We're fortunate. We have a visitor at practice every day in Ted Coy, so he gives them a great reminder of what this game meant in that era and some of those fantastic matchups, 1 versus 2, things of that nature. But when you have the break and the lull in the action, I think for so many of our players, what they know of a rivalry is what they've seen on TV or the games that they went to during recruiting. I know for some of our current players and our current staff members, we went to Arkansas in 2021, and that was not a very friendly welcome that we received that first time going there. And so we understand the magnitude of the rivalry that way. Obviously, going back last year was helpful for us. But at the end of the day, a lot of our younger players, they're going to get introduced to that rivalry quickly, when this ball gets kicked off Saturday. But it's a great game. I'm so glad that we get to play this game. So many times, over the last few years, when people were talking about conference realignment, that with conference realignment, that so many of these rivalries kind of fell off and people aren't playing some of the great games that they played historically. Well, we picked 2 back up, and I think that sometimes that gets overlooked. And the fact that we're playing both of these rival games at the end of the season to go along with OU in the middle of the season, these are special opportunities that our players are going to remember for a lifetime. So we're going to embrace it. We're going to enjoy it, and we're going to fight our tails off, see how it goes.
And I know this is Southeast Sports Plus. We always have to talk one particular institution with you, and it's the institution where you got your great education. The Maryland Terrapins on a 6-game losing streak now. However, I think a lot of the country will be rooting for them this week to knock off a Michigan football team, to throw at least some wrinkles into the mix. Number one, what do you feel about your Terps, your boys, and can they pull off a win?
He looks mad. Sorry.
Can they?
It was so good talking to you guys this week. It was so fun, but I will talk to you guys next week. All right.
I will say this. I will say this.
No. Okay. I will say something quickly, Gerhard. You said the country's rooting for him. The country's been through enough. They don't want to have to sit and root for the Maryland football team. Okay, that is as torturous as I can imagine anything. It's worse than it's ever been. And the men's basketball team had to go to overtime against Mount St. Mary's. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that recently. It's a disaster.
Hey, West Virginia struggled with them.
Hey, maybe Mount St. Mary might be a sneaky power.
Put some respect on their name.
Might be a sneaky power there. So no shot. I'm right there with you.
I will say, I think the line's like 14 or something. Maryland, sans the Indiana game and somewhat Illinois as well, has been boneless Arkansas this year. They've been in so many of these games and then just collapse.
You're right.
Don't act like that pain, Gerhard. This is different.
I grew up an Auburn fan, so getting close and then not getting there, that has been my life.
Okay, yes, but I just meant from the Maryland perspective.
Yeah.
So I could see them, and people forget, all right, that year that Michigan went undefeated, won the national championship 3 or so years ago. Their closest game that year was in College Park, and they almost lost. So there's maybe some magic in the air, and somehow you guys have sold me back in. You've got Maryland pictures going on right now. What is happening? And you're making it look like this is like a positive game against Indiana. It was a disaster.
No, it's the only game that there's pictures of Maryland.
Oh, that's AP News or Getty Images. Come on, we got to get you out to College Park. I know the press people there.
But I mean, they're getting funding. They're giving Mike Loxley some money. They're supporting him, so maybe he could build something.
Maybe.
Is this what the plus is in Southeast Sports?
Yes.
Plus? It's like Southeast Sports, and then
plus is a
Maryland?
positive as well.
Yes, yeah, we spin everything positively. It's a plus thing, you know what I mean? We try to get on, and whether it's your alma mater or a school you grew up watching, we think of it positively. Think of it positively.
I appreciate that, I guess, but I'm still angry.
Noah, thank you so much for your time this week. Do you have a score? Actually, I think you did say a score prediction, 37-34.
Yeah, on our pregame show, it's slightly different, but I've amended it to my SEC Sports Plus prediction of 37-34.
Love it. All right, I'll check the over/under number, see if that's worth putting a little.
Over.
Couple shillings on.
That is definitely over.
I like it. Yeah, definitely. You're the best, man. I certainly appreciate it, and blame Patrick for the Maryland pictures.
Yeah. No more, or I'm done. All right.
No. If they win, though, I have to.
Yeah.
Only if they win. I'll make a deal. If they win, yes.
Okay. If they win, I don't know what your guys' schedule is next week, but I'll be free any day of the week.
Okay. Done and done. Right. Thanks, man.
All right, bye. Go Terp.
All right. No, gross. He's such a good sport, man. Such a good sport. He is the absolute best. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, speaking of bets, we will lay down our best bets and what we're looking forward to ahead of another great week in college football. Stay with us. Happy Friday here on Southeast Sports Plus. It is the day before a bunch of college football games. In and around the SEC, a lot of teams are stepping out of conference this week just before rivalry week, so not as many interconference matchups going into this week, but a really strong slate ahead. It was the first matchup at 11 a.m. was a team that Kirk Herbstreit had no idea how to pronounce. Sanford, Texas A&M there in that matchup. Another non-conference matchup, Charlotte and Georgia at 11:45. The other 11 a.m. kickoff, one of the few SEC matchups, Missouri and Oklahoma. Could be a big one not only for Oklahoma, but also for our projections for the bracket.
Yes.
With you having Oklahoma in, me out, and then Alabama host Eastern Illinois.
Yeah, moving right along here. Mercer is going to travel to Auburn at 1 o'clock, and Deuce Knight's starting debut in college football. And then another one of our SEC matchups, Kentucky facing Vanderbilt, looking to throw a wrench in the Commodores' college football playoff hopes. Another SEC matchup, Arkansas taking on Texas. Arkansas is probably going to lose their 7th close game of the year, one possession game of the year. I mean, you could just book it at this point. And then an interesting one, Coastal Carolina taking on South Carolina. I think South Carolina is only 22.5-point favorite in that one, so it's a little bit interesting. And then wrapping it up here, Tennessee looking for their first win in the Swamps at 2003. That's a little bit shocking. And then Western Kentucky will face LSU.
I think they get it done there. I think that they end up
Western
saying,
Kentucky?
Hey, right. Exactly. In my opinion, the SEC, I mean, we always try to pick a good game.
Right.
I think the game, of course, to watch to me, of course, is Missouri, Oklahoma, just for the ramifications of what that one might mean for the upcoming college football playoff brackets coming up in the near future. So it is really interesting. I think that this game or this week will take a nice little turn here. And so there's some other games outside of the SEC that I think are really intriguing there as well. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But first, our predictions.
Yes, we love to do predictions on this show.
Yep.
And let's roll right into them here. So we've got 5 games to predict this weekend, SEC Week 13. Let's start with number 22, Missouri, at number 8, Oklahoma. 7.5-point favorites are the Sooners.
I think I gave away my handicap earlier, but I do think Missouri gets the win. I think that they can only win a certain way to ground it out. It might not be the most aesthetically pleasing game. I think Missouri will run the football, ground and pound. I think not only do they stay within the number, I think they win the game outright and really shake things up after beating Oklahoma and Norman.
I wonder if this number is going to shift a little bit with the news of Bo Pribula, because I think 7.5 points with Pribula playing is a little bit shocking. I would definitely take Mizzou at +7 right there. All right, Kentucky at number 14, Vanderbilt. 8.5-point favorites are the Commodores.
I think that Vandy gets a scare. I'm with you. I'm with Julian Mendelssohn on this. This is a dangerous team. This is a dangerous game.
Cutter Bully's been playing good.
Oh, for sure. And Kentucky will walk in there with all the confidence. And I think if this game was in Lexington, I'd be more apt to pick Kentucky. This game being in Vandy, I do believe Vandy pulls it off.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's definitely going to be a close game after the first quarter. It's gonna be a close enough game where, you know, if you're watching the ticker at the bottom of the screen, you'll be like, whoa,
yes,
Vanderbilt and Kentucky are tied at 10. Like, what is going on here? But I think Vanderbilt, Clark Lee gives an inspirational speech at halftime, and Vanderbilt pulls away. I think they win by 2 touchdowns.
Okay.
Arkansas at number 17, Texas, 8.5-point favorites.
This number is really interesting because it's almost begging you to take Arkansas because they've played nothing but close games. They've played all one-possession games, and guess what? That's the closest to a non-one-possession game as you get, 8.5 points. I just think that because Texas does have a glimmer, a shot, a morsel of hope to get into the college football playoff, they'll be focused against Arkansas. I like Texas. I know I liked them last week, and I usually burn teams off my list after liking them, and then you embarrass me like that. But I will go with Texas in that matchup, covering but barely.
So here's the thing: Arkansas's defense is garbage. It's so bad.
Hot garbage.
But as of late, they've been playing good. But at the same time, this is still that Arkansas defense that allowed 363 pass yards to Trinidad Chambliss in his first Division I start. I think Arch eclipses that. I think Arch throws for 400 yards this weekend.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I think Texas blows Arkansas out the water.
Interesting.
And then maybe the fans will finally be like, no, we don't want Bobby Petrino. I'm still so shocked. I am baffled that they are still so high on Bobby Petrino when the same results as Sam Pittman is happening right now. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
None.
Anyways, Coastal Carolina at South Carolina, 24.5-point favorites. I find this a little interesting.
I find this interesting as well, but this is probably the angriest team in the country after what happened last week, giving up 31 points in the second half, or 27 points in the second half. I feel bad for Coastal Carolina because I think South Carolina is going to take all their frustrations out on the Chanticleers.
I like that as well. I think Coastal Carolina wins by 30. And then finally, Tennessee at Florida. Tennessee, 4.5-point favorites.
I think that the streak comes to an end. I think Tennessee finally gets a win in the Swamp.
Yes.
I don't know if they cover the number, but I think they get the win in the Swamp.
Yeah, 4.5. That's kind of in that happy medium zone, but I think DJ Lagway is going to try to play well against this Tennessee defense. I think Joey Aguilar, though, throws for 450.
Yeah, it should be a fun week just ahead of rivalry week. Enjoy all the college football games. We'll see you back here next week.